Okay. I just want to say thank you. I am so blessed already just being here and just going through this first portion of your service. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, this space to be a part of this, Reverend. And I I have to honor you, but and I also have to honor my friend Miss Gwen that I've known for 20 odd years. So thank you, Miss Gwen, also for this opportunity. As just mentioned, my name is Faith, as you see, Saunders, or you may hear Faith McCalla. It's the same person. I just want to make that clear. So some people call me Faith Saunders, you'll hear Faith McCalla, but it's the same person. Just a little bit about me, based on my accent. I wasn't born here in the United States. I'm hailing from Jamaica. I've lived here for 30 odd years in the United States, and my background is in mental health. I've worked in the mental health field for over 20 odd years. And some of you, I'm great to see you again. We had such a wonderful time when I did the workshop around mental health. And for individuals who I do have not had the opportunity to have met before, I want to say welcome and thanking you for bringing me into your space. So, what I'd like to speak about today is the hero within. When when Reverend Angela and Miss Gwen communicated with me, I was thinking, what can I talk about that hasn't been spoken about, or maybe it has, but when I hear Black History Month or Women's History Month, there are certain things that we always hear. We're always hearing about what others have done. And although that is wonderful, it takes away from us, each and every one of us, that we ourselves have something to offer or have been offering. That's not because we're not spoken about doesn't mean that it's not relevant. So today I want to speak about the hero within. God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And I'm not a talking head. So I would like for interaction. So as Reverend said, when I'm going to ask for interaction by via the chat, or if you'd like to put your hands up to let me know that if you have something to say, I'd really appreciate it. I think that's the greatest way for us to actually learn and grow from each other. I'm here in a sense as a facilitator. Let's look at it from that standpoint. So I have a question. Before I even go into the question I have for you, I want to share some interesting facts with you. Sometimes we celebrate various holidays or various events, for example, Black History Month and Women's History Month. But we're celebrating it, but we don't even know what we're celebrating for, you know? So I thought it would be interesting to start out this whole process since we just ended Black History Month and now we're in Women's History Month about some interesting facts about both of these significant months that we celebrate. So let's start with Black History Month. Did you know that it was created in 1926 and it began as Negro History Week? I didn't know that before I actually did the research. And it was created by Carter G. Woodson, who is an African American historian, educator, and publisher. It became a month in 1976, right? So it started out in 1926, but it actually became a month celebration in 1976. And the month that was chosen to do this was in February, and we just completed our celebration this past February. So the next one is Women's History Month, right? And so these are some interesting facts about Women's History Month. It traces back to March 8th, 1857. Whoa. Did anyone ever know that? I know I didn't, right? When women from various New York City factories started a protest over poor working conditions. So that's where this all started from. So remember what our title is today, The Hero Within? God works extraordinary things through ordinary people. And so these women doing their thing, advocating for themselves, saying, this is not right, actually brought us decades later into celebrating Women's History Month. Another interesting fact, the first Women's Day celebration in the United States was in 1909 in New York City. And in 1981, Congress established it as a National Women's History Week. So in 1981, we weren't even celebrating a month. In 1981, we were just celebrating a week, right? And in 1987, it became a month-long celebration. So when we celebrate these significant holidays or significant events, it's important to know where we're coming from, right? What's the foundation behind it? Because when we know where we're coming from or what is behind it, it brings more meaning to what it is, and it brings, when we're celebrating it, it really brings the value of what has been done before to actually bring us to this point where we can actually celebrate it and realize that not only we're celebrating for the now, but what we do today can impact others in the future. So that's my way of actually combining both months that we're celebrating or have celebrated. And another way of actually combining them was actually bringing together a hero, hero. And I must say that these unsung heroes came to my attention by my son. For Black History Month, he's 30 years old. And for Black History Month, he decided that there are so many unsung heroes that people are not aware of, that he was going to bring it to light through his art. And I'll show that to you in a little bit. But this is how I learned about this couple. There are Ellen and William Craft. And Ellen, they are a married couple. Can you be married back in the day during slavery? They are a married couple, interracial couple. And they wanted to escape from the South to the North. So what they did was let me get my thing here. So what happened was that Ellen, who was a light-skinned white woman, frankly, and her husband, who was Black, decided to escape from the South. So she disguised herself as a enslaver, and he was her valet. And together, and on your extreme right, you'll see a picture of her in her disguise as an enslaver. And together, they with that disguise, they actually traveled from the South to the North and eventually ended up in England. They published a narrative called Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom in 1860. They also started a school in England. There's a whole history about what they accomplished in their lifetime during after their escape that I really encourage you to actually read. And as I mentioned, my son was the one who actually kind of brought this to my attention because I wasn't aware. And this is his artwork that he did to honor them. So bringing them together. So we celebrated Black History Month, which is just a part of that. But I felt that in order of celebrating Women's History Month, it'd be great to honor Ellen also. So bringing them together. So I've done a lot of talking this morning. As I mentioned, I like interactions. So here we go. So my question to you is, what makes a hero? What are the qualities that make someone stand out, that we celebrate these individuals and we acknowledge them and we say, whoa, they did such great work? What are the words that come to mind when you think of individuals who you have considered a hero? And I'd like for you to put it in the chat, but even more, unmute and talk to me, please. And Reverend, if you could actually manage the chat for me, I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So so selfless, courageous,
Great.
Understanding.
Powerful.
Someone who inspires others.
Great. Anything else? Okay, but these are great ones to start out with. I think is there anything else?
Yes, speaking out in the face of injustice. Extraordinary actions and courage. Absence of ulterior motives. Integrity. Fearlessness.
Wow. Powerful words. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Integrity. It's about being selfless, right? It's not about us, but about the greater good. I was writing down words as they were coming up. So understanding, Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Can you imagine if we seek first to understand what this other person or other country we're almost facing World War III, as they're saying. If we actually stood back and actually try to understand each other, and then to have our voices be, and so that we could be understood, it would, I'm sure it would have made a world of a difference, especially in that situation, but also in our own personal lives, right? So unsung heroes are individuals who have all these qualities, right? So let's see what I kind of came up with. Inspirational, which was mentioned, and I don't have the whole gamut, but these were just some words that I came up. Someone who has conviction, right? That, I'm standing up for injustice. Someone mentioned that, standing up in the face of injustice, right? No matter what's happening, this is not right. So you have that conviction. It takes very bravery, right? It takes a lot of bravery. And someone mentioned courage also, to be able to kind of speak your truth, right? Helpful. It's very, in order to be a hero, it involves being helpful, wanting to make a difference, being determined, being honest. We talked about integrity earlier. Moral integrity. I think it's blocking this. Yeah. And having a purpose. The purpose is very, very important, right? So what I find is that so often we are gifted with this thing called life, but we go about our life not realizing that we have a purpose. We are existing and we're doing, but are we doing what we're here to do? Are we living in purpose? And I think that's part of thinking about a hero. Sometimes they may not even realize that they were living in purpose, because they're just going with what was the core of what was happening inside of them, the injustice that they were seeing, etc., and feeling that, well, I have to talk more about this. I have to address this. But I also want to mention that heroes are not only individuals who go in and for battle to address issues. You can just be a hero by being helpful to your neighbor, seeing someone in need and being helpful, seeing someone who is homeless and giving them a smile. Maybe you don't have anything to give them physically, but just acknowledging them as a person, another individual. That is a gift for some individuals. I was watching a video, a documentary the other day around, it was about trauma, but they were interviewing various people, some of the individuals were homeless. And one of the things that came out was that So often the greatest hurt someone has is not that they didn't somebody hasn't given them something, it's the fact that they look away from them like they're nobody. They just don't want to look at them. They're nobody. And so acknowledging someone that I see you can make such a difference in someone's life. So it doesn't have to be an extraordinary thing. We can be we can be doing many of these things in our everyday lives. And guess what? Sometimes most of the time we won't get that knowledge about it, but that's okay. We are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're living our purpose and we're making a difference in this world. So with purpose comes a clear why. And I'm going to give an example of why I do this activity. I have this activity that I do when I do trainings, various trainings, and it's called the five whys. And it really helps us to solidify or really get to the root of really why we are actually doing whatever we are doing. I use this activity in my own personal life a lot of times when I'm asked to do something or when I'm thinking of doing something, and I do the five whys to figure out, do I really want to spend my precious time doing this? And so this is how it goes. And I give you an example of how the power of why, why after this. But it goes this way. You ask the person for whatever they're doing or whatever their goal is, why is that important to them? So they write their goal or they write what they want to do initially. So you write it, no fancy stuff, just a sentence. I want to whatever. My goal is to whatever. So you write that. And then the next first question is, why is that important to you? Right? And you write, well, I do this with individuals who sometimes when I work with at Department of Labor with individuals who are on assistance, I'll ask like, why do you want to get a job? And everybody look at me like I had 10 heads, like, really? To make money, right? So of course, you write your money. I want to make a lot of money. And then the question is, why is that important to you? Why is making money important to you? And they'll write their answer. And then I say, whatever you just wrote there, why is that important to you? And they'll, at this time, they're getting angry at me, like, are you kidding me? I told you. I said, just sit with it for a little bit. Let's see what comes up. And they'll write their answer. And then I'll ask, the question, why is this important to you? Now, people are really look at me and rolling their eyes at this time. But I say, sit with it. Why what you just wrote, that last thing you wrote, why is that important to you? And they'll write their answer. It takes time because the first answer is the surface answer, but as you dig deeper, you can actually come to the real conclusion. By the fifth why, you're there. And then I ask the question, how will that make you feel when you accomplish that goal? Or whatever you wrote as your last why. And people will say fulfilled, feel like I'm making a difference. There are a number of different responses that people will come up with. So I'll give you an example. So I did this activity with in various settings. So going back to the employment one. So making money, yes, all ladies are like, well, I want to make money. I mean, why would I want to find a job? But at the end of that fifth why, you know what I'm hearing? I want my kids to see me as I don't want my kids to see me as a loser. I don't want to stay on assistance. I want to make a difference in this world. Remember where we started from? Making money? But when they got to their fifth why, it was about the real core of why. They want their kids. I don't want my kids to see me as a loser. I want my kids to see me with a job. I want to be a role model for my kids. When that person goes to a job and that boss may rub them the wrong way, Maybe initially when they want to make money, it would be they curse him or her out. But when you're thinking about, I want my kids, I want to be a role model for my kids. I want to have a job that my kids can actually see, be a model role model for my children. That's a total different thing. I am going to take a second thought in terms of, is this the best way to address this issue or to leave this job? So the walk or why is very clear. It helps us to gain clarity in terms of what we're actually doing. Another fast example, I was doing another activity and we're talking about wellness. And we're talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness, and that's what research shows, that 8 key areas of our lives, if we pay attention to them, we live healthy, we can live more healthy lives. And so one person mentioned that she wants to really pay attention to her physical wellness. And her physical wellness was one in which she needed to take off. Her doctor had told her that she needed to take off some weight, but she's struggling with it. So we did the Y activity, and one of the things she said that her goal of taking off the weight was one, yeah, the doctor says she needs to take it off, but she wants to look sexy. She said this, not me, right? By the time we reached to the fifth why, you know why she wanted to take off the weight? She wants to be able to get down on the ground and play with her grandchildren. Even every time I talk about this, it gives me goosebumps. That was the real core of why what was really behind that, her taking off that way, of her gaining clarity of why it's so important for her to take off the weight that the doctor had suggested that she took off. And so that brought a different light to the whole situation for her. And so having a clear why does help us to be able to connect with our purpose and to do the things that we are meant to do in this world. So again, I'm preaching to the choir, as the saying goes, because many of you know this parable more than I do, you know. But I thought about it, and Reverend Angela, I don't know if you knew this. When I logged on this morning, it just came to me just before I logged on, and I put the slide in. So while I was talking to you, that's what I was doing in the background. But I felt that this was so relevant to our talk this morning, that the parable of the talent, as I mentioned, many of you know this talent, this parable about everyone receiving their different talents, some receiving more than others. But the expectations was that each person was supposed to multiply that, right? And we know what happened to that person who didn't do anything towards their talent. So God, each of us we have what we need. We are given what we need in order to be able to fulfill what the purpose that we have on this earth is, right? So it's everyday thing. It's that maybe that smile that brightens somebody else's day. Maybe some of us have the gift and just a natural talent um of 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 helping others, just looking at someone and say, how are you doing? Talking with someone and having them feel safe enough that they can share with you. Each of us have our various talents and gifts that were given to us, that some of us are hiding under a bushel. Sometimes those talents that makes us extra special and extra unique and make us that person to be able to fulfill the purpose that we're here, we're ashamed of it. We hide away from it. We're like we're constantly running away from it. I don't want to use that. And ask me how I know. I was that person. I was one of that person that, didn't want to be talking to anyone. And, I just don't want I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in the forefront talking to people or anything like that. 20 years ago, initially when I came in my 20s, I would, if anyone had ever told me that I'd be doing something like this, I'd be like, oh, really? It would be like, no way. But, sometimes, God put us in certain situations, and no matter how we're running away, He's just bringing back the circumstances so we have to deal with what we need to deal with, right? And so some of us are running away from what we know in our heart that we need to be doing. So God gives us our talents. We have those already. We don't have, so many of us don't have to look anywhere. We just have to look within to be able to figure out what it is so that we can use it to the service of God. So some of the things that sometimes getting in our way is ourselves, right? We try to do things by ourselves. We feel that, I have to figure this out. You ain't got to figure out nothing. Just let go and let God. He has it already planned. His word says, cast your burden on the Lord and he will sustain you. He has given us you all that we need. We don't have to figure it out. All we have to do is connect. We do meditation early. We did a meditation, beautiful meditation earlier. And all of that, when we meditate and we sit quietly, we find the answer. It comes to us. It comes to us. Sometimes the answer comes to us here, or sometimes it's within the people when we interact with other people that we realize what the answer is coming to us. So we don't have to do all this thing alone. We already have God on our side. He gives us a reassurance. He says, in this, for mortal it is impossible, but for God all things are possible. So God takes out the I am, out of impossible and turn it into I am possible. What I am going to do is possible, because guess what? I'm not doing it on my own strength. I'm depending on you, God, and you are everything. You know everything. You give me the strength to be where I am at this moment, and you'll guide me through that path to where you want me to be. So he gives us that reassurance already, that I'm here for you and in all circumstances. And maybe things may seem impossible to you, mere human, but to me, nothing is impossible. And here's one of our heroes that we have spoken about over the years. But I love quotes. Miss Gwen, I love my quotes. And this is a quote that came to me that I felt that was relevant for what we talked about this morning. We can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands to make a difference. Just think about that for a few seconds. We can change the world and make it a better place. It is in our hands to make a difference. So, who else is a hero? Who else do you know that is a hero? Think about that. You are a hero. You are a hero. Think about those qualities that you described, you heard earlier about a hero. And I'd like you to internalize those qualities that you have that can actually contribute to this world being a better place. And so my questions are, what makes you a hero? What are some of the things that you can do to make this world a better place? To make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be brilliant, beautiful, or perfect. You just have to care. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share with you.
And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, your beautiful presence, your beautiful soul, and your beautiful message. We receive it. Thank you. So when you just know that you can stay, Faith is going to be here to continue this conversation, to continue the sharing after their last closing song. And so Faith, if you could unshare the screen.
Okay, I will.
I can resume.
Okay, stop share. There we are. Thank
you. All right. And for a moment, if you want to turn your cameras on and give a woot, woot, woot to Faith, or a little heart or your emoji on your screen. We adore you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ expressing as you.
What are you doing?
And the hero that you are, the shiro that you are.
Yeah.
All right.
Why are you clapping?
Because I'm at church clapping.
All right. So it is that time in our service where you have the opportunity to continue sharing your generosity. And so let us just take this moment to reflect on all the ways that we can show up as that hero and shiro, and all the ways that we have already done that in this beloved community. And as we allow our hearts to be filled with gratitude, let us affirm divine love as me blesses and increases all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. And just allow those words to fill you from within. And one more time, divine love as me blesses and increases all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. If you would like to share a financial offering to our church, we will greatly appreciate that. In your announcement for this service, you also had a button that says Give Now. And if you click on it, you will be taken to a place where you can, put your love offering in and your information, your whatever bank information there. Also, on the newsletter that you receive weekly, that Give Now button is included in there. Or you could just go to www.unitybytheshore.org. And at the top of the page, it says Give Now, and you can do it that way. And many of you, some of you share by sending in a check to our address, 3508 Asbury Avenue in Neptune, New Jersey, 07753.